All right, so let's start from scratch and let's go ahead. So we worked on the video, the audio. We're going to do some text images. We're going to create a little bit of a video, okay? So let's pull in this video. All right, so this video, and you can see, doesn't fit into my frame. Okay, I've already have my 1920 by 1080. That is what I want. So if I want this to fit into the frame, I right click it and you say scale to frame size. I use this a lot, especially when I'm pulling in a lot of videos. Scale to frame size, and it fits it in for me. And it went ahead and scaled it for me everything. That was a 70. It looks like a 720 by 720 file. So it just in proportion, it just scaled it in for me. All right, so here's is my little video. I'm going to pull over my audio. So now this video is much, much longer than my audio. I'm going to mute that for a second. But I only want this whole video to be 1 minute. Okay. So right now, if I move this, do you see these numbers here? They're moving. Okay. That shows you how long, how many seconds this whole video is. And actually, I'm just going to make it about, let's say 20 seconds. So when I move this and it corresponds to these numbers, I'm going to come in here and make it about 20 seconds. If I want to get it on the exact number, these buttons here will go frame by frame, frame by frame, frame by frame the other way. The middle button is play, stop. Okay. So let's go back to a little bit. There we go. To 20 seconds. Now, there's a couple ways. I can use C for razor tool. Do you see how that C came up right beside the razor tool? Okay, well, that is a shortcut. It works on Mac and PC. So I can press C and my razor tool comes up. I can either cut it, and you always want to have your snap to on. Do you see how it snaps? It automatically defaults at that. But if you see those little triangles that pop up when I move my razor tool, you always want to have those on because that helps precision. I mean, you can zoom in, but it helps with precision. Okay, so I can cut it here. I can highlight it and I can just delete if I want to get it. That's one way to do it. Another way is to keep my little crosshair here. I can take the end of my file. Do you see that little red bracket that comes up? I can pull it here and shorten it and pull it here and shorten it. So there's two ways to do it, okay? So now I have my little video. Okay, so this song, I'm going to show you how to add multiple tracks of video to one little project. So again, my music is high, so I'm going to click on my music just once, go over to my effect controls, take off my keyframe, lower it down to 15. All right. So now we play it, sounds better, but the video is going slow. So I want to add another video at a beat. Okay. So this is, we're going to work on audio. This is how to make something go from, it makes it feel more integrated, the music and the video. All right, so we have this other video that I'm going to pull in, but again, I want to get it just where the sun comes in. So if I'm over here in the source panel, the program, what do I have to do to get it right? What letter do I have to press just to get it endpoint? Clint, do you remember? Yep, I heard you.
Yeah. You heard me. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
The
I saw your finger.
little eye. Sign
Yeah.
language.
Yeah, exactly. So then if I pull it over, did I tell you how do you get the other point? The I and the, yep, you got it. Oh, so I'm going to pull this. Now, if you see here on your panel, actually it's a little squish. This looks like a little film strip. If this was a video with audio and visual, this is just, it just has a film. It doesn't have any audio associated with it. I can just pull the audio over. I can just pull the video over. I don't want the audio. Or if it's music and I just want that clip of like something that somebody says, or like sometimes if you're doing an interview and I've taped where I've interviewed somebody and one of their words like flubbed up, but there's another cut I have where it's not flubbed, I'll just pull that word over and I'll replace that word. So you can do that here in this little area as well. So I just pulled over the video piece that I wanted, and that's perfect. Now, everything in Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere Pro, I was telling the girls on another video, everything is in layers here. I love the way that Adobe works because if we think of it as layers, now that I put this video on the timeline over my other video, it covered that video. If I move it, the other video shows up. So it's just like how your brain works, like it's a layer. All right, so now we're trying to work with audio and make it interesting because the beat goes fast, but the video is pretty slow. So if we listen, let's zoom all the way in. These little points on your song are where you want to maybe have a video change so it can keep up with the beat of the song. It just makes it cleaner. So let's try that. Okay, so that little sound. Okay, so that happens here. If you watch your little crosshair, it happens about here, right? So let's keep this crosshair right on where that beat goes up, and we'll just move that other video to the end. I have it snap. If you see these little triangles that pop up, snap. So now when I play it, and if you watch with your audio, with your visual, it's going with the beat. So you can make a nice intro. You can do, there's so many things you can do with that. That's very simple, but I just wanted to show how you can line up music with your video. All right, so let's do this again. All right, so then there's another little beat. I'm going to go back to the other video. There's two ways you can do it. You can take C on your keyboard for a shortcut. Just cut it here. Or you can pull it. Okay. So let's see how that flows. So it's going back and forth, but you can also put, if you had a different video, you can put it there. Now, say you know for sure that you will not use this video piece underneath. You can take your video and you can pull it down. It will automatically get rid of that. You're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Of course, you can do Control Z or Command Z on the Apple, or you can lift this back up and you can now control it this way. But it does create this cut here. But you don't lose video. If you cover something, nothing's ever gone. You can always have your entire video. And if you look here, I can pull it all the way out. And this will be the same as what's underneath. Okay, that's easy, makes sense, I'm sure. All right, so do you have any questions so far? Okay, good. All right, so now we have video, we have audio. And now I'm going to show you how to work with images, okay? So the thing about images, I will pull this little image in here. Again, it's on layers. So if I pull it on top, oopsie, let me do that. If I pull it on top of these layers, I don't see the video underneath at all because this, again, is layers. If I want to turn this off, I can just turn it off with the little eye, like you're just covering up the eye, toggle track, turn it on and off. So I want to see what's underneath. But here is your little image. Okay, so if you click on this image, if you click on, oh wow, it's not showing up because you have to just double click. Now anything you double click will show up in this little area here where you can look at your source file and your effects. I'll go to effects. Now, anything that I want to control for this actual image is here in this area. So if I want to move it from left to right, like we talked about, up and down, If I move it out of the frame, if you can see what's underneath. If you want to, and I want to go back to the original, so I'll go back. If I want to rotate it, things like that. Same difference. Anything that you want to do is in that panel. You have any questions? Okay, perfect. All right, so now I have this video, I have this image that I have, but I want the image to come up as on this beat that I created before that little area. So let's see how that looks. Okay, that's perfect. But it's sort of, I don't like that stagnant look, right? So let's pull this down. I know for sure I'm not going to use this video track. And what can happen, you can keep it there, but you'll have layer on layer on layer, layer on layer, layer, layer. So you want to try, if you can, and you are for sure not going to go, you can just go ahead and get rid of it, because that way it'll simplify things. But if you know if you're not sure and you're still editing, keep your layers until you're sure. All right. So this video, let's work on keyframes a little bit, because I really wanted to show you what that means. So this is, we don't want this stagnant, like everything's moving, right? We have this movement, and then here that is, it doesn't really fit. So let's see what we can do. Let's add some movement to this still image. Okay. So here are your keyframes. Every effect and different things that you can add, opacity, different color effects, everything in Premiere Pro has keyframes. Okay, so let's take this image and let's just slowly bring it toward the camera, okay, or toward our faces. All right, so we want to take, if you notice, when I move this crosshair moves here. Okay, so this, from the beginning of this little image here to the very end, is the beginning of this and the end of this. Okay, so as I move this, it corresponds. So that just helps you know. So when I am off, as soon as I get off this image, boom, I'm in into the other video, and this crosshair has disappeared off of my area because I have this highlighted. So when I'm working on this, this is the only thing that's going to be in this area. All right, so let's say I want to start it here. This is where I want to start it when I first hit this image from my timeline. I want to start it at this proportion. So I take these are keyframes. These are little stopwatches. I click that stopwatch. I want that same position. I want that same scale. But I want this at the very beginning. I want it to start here. So I take my mouse. I just highlight both of those keyframes. I pull it all the way to the left. So now I know it's going to start at that size. So now, once it gets a little bit further into the image, I just want to make it a little bit bigger, and I want to move it a little bit over to the left. So I'm just moving these numbers. I'm clicking on the number and holding it with my mouse, and I'm clicking on the number here and holding it with my mouse, okay, when I move those. But I don't, if I played this now, it stops. Well, I don't really want it to stop until the end, so I take these keyframes, I highlight them and drag them all the way to the end. So now we have some movement. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so again, that's just a simple way to show keyframes, but it gives a little bit of movement if you have a still image. Okay, is that all good so far? Anybody? Okay, awesome. All right. So that's just those basic, very basic. That's you. We've already created a type of video in such a basic way, right? Very easy stuff. But with those simple things, you can do a lot. You know, you can do layers, you can do transitions, you can do opacity. For example, if I wanted to take this image and I wanted to copy it, I wanted to copy everything about it. I click on it, and this is in Mac and PC. I do it with my Mac at home. You press Alt. I'm holding Alt now. I'm clicking this image in this little piece on my timeline, and then I'm pulling it up. And now it has created the exact same thing in a different spot, which you can use this a lot, especially if you're doing a video and you want to keep your same text. You want to have text move, even if you want to change the text. We're going to work with text in a moment. Okay, so say for example, I just wanted this at the beginning. Again, if it's layered, I'm not going to see what's underneath, but say I just wanted to add opacity to it so you can see the bird and the water. Over here, I'm clicked on what I want to change in my effects controls. That's how I control it. And there's something called opacity, and I can change it. Okay, so, and it just shows you how you can layer things. You can just layer, layer, layer. You can layer all the way up. You create some really dynamic things. Now, for example, say I wanted the bird to fade in. I already have the keyframes here where the bird gets bigger, but say I wanted to fade him in, right? So I like that 48%, but I don't want him to start there. I want him to be at 48% here. So I'll go ahead and click on my opacity. It adds a little keyframe on my little window here, and I want it all the way at the end, okay? Now, but at the beginning, I don't want to see him at all until about right here. So this is already highlighted. I've already created a keyframe. I take this down all the way down to 0. So now when I play it, he comes in for a second. So there's just a lot you can do, okay? I think that's pretty straightforward, but there's a lot you can do there. And when you're working with music and your images and your video, you can create the tone of your whole tone. If you have something slower, you can fade things in, and that's what I want to show you now. There's something called cross dissolve. I use this a lot. You never want to overuse any kind of effect because it can look cheesy, right? But there is a way you can do things to make things look really clean. So at the beginning, a lot of times in the video, I'll never start a video like that. I won't just come into a video. A lot of times I'll ease into it. And how you do that, there's two things: cross dissolve, and then you have a fade. Any audio, when you cross in or when you fade in music, it's going to be a different effect. And when you fade in video, it'll be a different effect, but I'll show you both. So now this is your effects panel. You'll use this a lot, okay? So we want to do crosses off. There's so many things here, and we'll go through a few, but there are so many things here. I'm going to show you the basics, but again, if you want to know anything more, then you can always do some, let me open this up. Okay, you can always do a little bit of research on YouTube because there's just so many things here, but I'm going to show you the basics. Okay, so you can look through here if you want to. What I'm going to do is just do the search bar, cross dissolve. Okay, it pops up. Now here's your effect. You can take your effect, you click on it, hold it, and you drag it. Now it's not going to let me drag it to the middle of my little element here because it's a transition in or a transition out. So when I'm still holding on to it, I have not unclicked my mouse. I bring it to the front of my element. I click on it, and wow, it looks like it disappeared. It didn't disappear. All it did is add a fade to it. Okay, so it adds a fade to it, and just it creates a softer intro, which is a great effect. Now, say for example, because that's such a short piece and I want it to fade a little bit faster, I can, let me zoom in so we can see what we're working with. You can double click on any kind of element that you've dragged from your effects panels. If you double click it, here is how long it is on your element. So it's weird how it goes. I don't think it's by seconds, but maybe it's by frames. But for example, that's 100 gives me about this long of an intro. So it looks to be about 1 second, right? So if I double click it and I just want 1/5 of a second, which is 20, you say, okay, it shortens it a little bit, or it looks like about 4/5 of a second. It shortens it. So sometimes I just want a really short one. So I'll do 10, okay? So you get the point. So now it comes in, it's gonna come in a little bit faster. If you notice, just a quick fade. And say I want it longer, double click, do 200, and you get the point. Okay. So cross dissolve also works with in between. So right now we have a fade in, it pops to the next image, pops to the next image, pops to the next one, right? So say we want a softer transition in between an element, in between elements. You can take the crosses off and you can pop it right in between. Again, you can't put it I'm still holding it down. It will not let me put it anywhere in the middle, but I can put the in between, right? All right, so now when you, right? So you see how it just transitioned from one image to another. Simple stuff. But this song doesn't really, that doesn't match this song, right? So you want to really listen to your music and work with your music. This song is a cut, right? So you want to work with what you have, okay? So all that makes sense? All right, great. All right, so now we've added audio, we've added video, we've added images, and now let's work on adding text, okay?